welcome once again to our colleagues joining us via our dedicated YouTube channel, CYBERUK Online. Today's plenary sessions will be live streamed to you direct from us here at ICC Belfast. These, along with live stream content from yesterday's programme, will be available as on-demand content. And these consist of both keynotes and panel sessions, and will also be available to watch back on demand. In addition, we also have some specially selected content from some of our stream sessions. The full agenda can be seen on the CYBERUK website, and we'll also be putting up announcements throughout the day on our social channels to tell you what live stream sessions are coming up. We welcome your interaction with the sessions, so if you have comments, feedback, or want to reach out to others in the event community, please do so using the YouTube channel comments facility and connect with us with Twitter or LinkedIn. Please can I now ask you to ensure that your mobile devices are on silent as we're about to start. I hope you all have a productive and enjoyable event. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I've heard there was a healthy competition between the three Chili's teams for the most popular sessions yesterday. I'm not going to get involved in that debate, but I was absolutely delighted to see rooms full of delegates and large groups listening to all of the lightning talks. I also think the giraffe is currently winning the prize for best cyber tat of the competition so far. It was a day really rich and varied, and I hope you can see more of the same today. Do remember, as Della said, that if you missed any of the sessions, please look for them on the CYBERUK YouTube channel. And I would say I particularly recommend the panel discussion on strategic threats arising from supply chain vulnerabilities, and also the absolutely fantastic closing debate about threats emerging from the high-end disruptive and offensive capabilities. As for today, we've got an amazing lineup to keep the conversations going. I just bumped into the panel backstage, all lined up and ready, and I have to say it is a truly awesome panel. But first of all, I wanted to start with our sponsors. We've got Claire Fry, who's Director at the Ministry of Defence Digital Function, who's going to deliver the keynote address on behalf of today's lead sponsor, AWS. We then have the Home Office Minister for Security, the Right Honourable Tom Tugendhat MP, followed by a list of absolutely brilliant speakers. As I said, the panel includes Victor Jora from Ukraine, Jen Easterly from CISA in the US. We've then got Joe Kennedy, who's the Special Envoy to Northern Ireland for Economic Affairs, and Jane Brady, who's the head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service. So I won't take you through the full programme, but rest assured you're in for an absolute treat. This conference was so popular, we struggled to get all the people onto the programme who wanted to come and speak. So first of all, as I say, I'm going to turn to our sponsors. So let's get started by welcoming to the stage Chris Bailey, General Manager for Global National Security and Defence at AWS, who's going to say a few words to introduce Claire Fry. Chris Bailey. Thank you, Chris.
Well, hello and good morning. I'm Chris Bailey, Global National Security and Defense for Amazon. I'm actually based in London, and so I'm here to help. We're all here to help with mission requirements. First, I'd like to thank NCSC and NCSC's leadership. We're proud to be a sponsor again of this event, and it means a lot to us, and it's really important. Beyond that, we're really proud of our partnership with MOD and the work we're doing with the larger UK government. When it comes to cyber infrastructure, data resilience, which is such big themes for this conference, we have a lot of capability that we can bring to the table. We'll talk about that if you want to come by. We're glad to give you a lot more detail in those areas. Beyond that, though, in national security at AWS, we have experience that's unparalleled, we have capability that's very mission relevant, and we have unwavering support from our top leadership. So you'll hear that over and over again at Amazon, whether it was Jeff Bezos or Andy Jassy or now Adam Selipsky in the AWS world. Underpinning all of this is our digital skills, and really that's what Claire's going to talk about today. But building the next generation workforce, you know, she's going to talk a lot more about this and share a lot more about what MOD's doing. With that, though, I'd like to just introduce Claire Fry. She's Director of Functional Integration at Defense Digital. So Claire, welcome.
So hello, I'm Claire Fry, and it is my very great pleasure to be here today in beautiful Belfast. I'm grateful to Lindy for arranging a third day of sunshine, And with resilience being a key topic of the event, I'm going to use some examples from my background in defence to bring this topic to life in its broadest sense. So I'd like to share with you 3 themes, and these are, so firstly, the ever-changing cyber and technology landscape and the opportunity it brings. Secondly, how our people capability and skills underpin our resilience. And thirdly, how we must collaborate and partner across industry, public sector and academia to drive strategic advantage and global competitiveness. So about me, in Defence, I'm the Director responsible for the digital function. Amongst other things, this includes the Pan-Defence digital spend, about 4.4 billion per annum, and for the people and skills agenda. So skills is a subject I happen to be really passionate about, not least because the sorts of skills we're talking about today have become ever more essential to safeguarding our future security and prosperity. So my first theme, how does technology enable resilience? Speaking to this audience, I know you will already be converted to the idea that digital and cybersecurity are woven through the fabric of our society. And more than that, from a security and prosperity perspective, are a critical aspect of the threats we face and the way we overcome them. So this includes ever-changing state threats and non-state actors getting hold of increasingly cheap and easily available capabilities and using them, quite frankly, to cause chaos. The NCSC has noted technological evolution as the single largest factor affecting our cybersecurity posture. And if we're to keep up with these ever-changing threats, it's imperative we sustain our strategic advantage and keep pace with technology change. For inspiration, we only need to look to Ukraine, where they've used digital technology and information warfare to hold back a larger aggressor, not least the crowdsourcing of open-source intelligence satellite imagery and mobile phone videos to improve real-time decision-making. But more than that, digital transformation has literally saved lives and enabled society in the most extreme of circumstances. So at a recent government digital event, I had the pleasure of hearing Denis Ivanov speak from the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. Hearing him speak was truly humbling. Their aim, to build the most convenient country in the world, no paper, no stress, no bureaucracy, and 100% of public services online. Over 17 million users pick up App Store products, including electronic documents for identification, and the ID card with electronic passport on a par with the physical one. Indeed, the electronic ID card has been game-changing, part of the National Support Programme, their top digital product. Initially used to help businesses during COVID, is now used for war support, come back alive financial assistance, to ensure government payments are made easily when people are literally fleeing for their lives. Financial support, no matter where the individual is, a simple, user-friendly front end with back-end verification and security at its heart. And they've enabled data sharing across 70 spheres, including schools and airports. This truly inspirational example sends a shiver down my spine, and it is an example of how digital and cyber advantage have clearly led to strategic advantage and resilience. In the UK defence, we talk about digital deterrence. This is about developing resilient and advanced cyber capabilities, such as high-grade crypt key, but it's also about integrating digital data and infrastructure technologies into every aspect of defence. Defence is a large and diverse digital enterprise. To give you a few statistics, we support 230,000 users, 24/7, across 1,300 sites, including 25 global operations. Conventional defence platforms like tanks and aircraft are fundamentally dependent on digital, and the new digitally enabled platforms are emerging in their own right, so drones, for example. They bring with them new cybersecurity challenges. In addition, data, including open data and analytics, is transformative in everything from vehicle health monitoring to targeting and giving operational commanders the ability to better assess their options. The development of synthetic environments allows us to transform how we model operations, and critically, digital enables better collaboration throughout our supply chain. Digital is now seen as a strategic asset, right at the heart of delivering the defence mission. It's one of the top priorities of our senior leaders. So, on to theme 2. How do we ensure our people develop the digital and cyber skills to be resilient as technology rapidly evolves and to capitalise on what it can do for our strategic advantage and global competitiveness? So, as Lindy has repeatedly emphasised, ensuring that we develop the digital and cyber skills is critical to our future. Defence is now spending an additional £1.6 billion over the next decade to ensure our people put digital and cyber security first. As well as ensuring everyone is more vigilant at countering cyber threats and avoiding online risks, it's also about collectively becoming more adept at understanding the vast potential of digital. We recognise the need to step up our efforts in defence and fundamentally change our approach. So earlier this year, we formally launched the Digital Skills for Defence programme, which I have the privilege of leading. It's a programme for the whole workforce, for our leaders and for our digital and cyber security professionals. But before I share more, here's a short video designed to bring to life the opportunity we have. So I hope you'll agree, people, coupled with technology, give defence its edge. We recognise the need to develop the entire workforce, military and civilian, with the cyber awareness and digital savvy to do their jobs. Be that as a civil servant making our supply chain more resilient in Bristol, or as a soldier supporting NATO in a battle group in Estonia. It's about enabling leaders to inspire their teams, and this includes all leaders, the most senior through to our officer cadets at Sandhurst. Leaders need to ensure their teams prioritise learning and skills development, and underpinning this, it's really about cultural change. I know this won't be straightforward. It's about creating the right environment in which digital can flourish and cyber security is embedded. Focusing on the qualities required to solve new, complex problems and a willingness to invest in constant refresh of skills. After all, technology is constantly changing, and a failure to keep up means being rapidly left behind. So my third and final theme, it's about collaboration. It's also about hearing from partnering with the best in digital and cyber and using what we learn to put this in practice in the defence context. Partnering means working across government, with industry partners of all shapes and sizes, including non-traditional players who are leaders in their field. It means working with academia too, and not just in the UK, but globally. So we are intent on learning lessons from each, and we're using this approach in our skills programme, curating a digital ecosystem which can provide world-class education to all our staff and sustain the best professional development for our digital and cyber security specialists. And I'm keen to throw the net wide. So to take advantage of the great research underway, such as the work the NCSC does with institutions like Southampton University and Imperial College London. And we're already working with key technology players, tightening ties. That's why I'm delighted that late last year we agreed a new, first-of-a-kind Memorandum of Understanding with AWS to cement our partnership on digital skills development. It gives us access to market-leading digital education, making skills development and learning readily accessible to our staff. New partnerships will shatter old ways of thinking, encourage more risk-taking, and catapult us into uncharted directions. So finally, in conclusion, I encourage you to collaborate. Join us in this vital digital technology and skills journey. Work with us, work with each other, be part of leading us all into a brave new world, because this is your chance to guarantee that whatever the problems that lie around the corner, real or virtual, we will be resilient. We will continue to stay one step ahead of our adversaries, and in the defence and security domain, nothing could be more critical. Thank you so much for listening.
Claire, thank you so much for that fascinating insight into digital defence. So I am now absolutely delighted to welcome to the stage my friend and the Home Office Minister for Security, the Right Honourable Tom Tugendhat MP.
Thank you very much indeed. It's an enormous pleasure to be here in Belfast today on this auspicious occasion, and not just for, of course, this extraordinary conference, but 25 years ago, there was the extraordinary moment of the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, that wonderful moment that gave hope to a new generation and demonstrated that this country, the whole of the UK and the whole of these islands, can move on from a difficult past to a much better future. It's also a reminder that peace can't be taken for granted, and that service, debate, and compromise define what is at the heart of our democracy and at the heart of our peaceful and democratic system. And together, they must never be neglected. It also makes me particularly mindful of my role today, because I stand before you as the Security Minister of the United Kingdom. Now, in one respect, that's quite a simple job: keep Britain safe. Of course, that clarity marks a complexity of the challenges that we face, from terrorism and state threats to organised crime and distributed attacks. Those attacks are, of course, more your field, and it's there in the cyber world that the UK faces some of its sternest tests. A quick look at the basic figures is enough to bring home the scale and severity of the challenge. New findings released yesterday from the Cyber Security Breaches Survey show that 32% of businesses experienced at least one cyber breach in the last 12 months. This year, for the first time, the survey also tells us how many of these breaches resulted in a cybercrime being committed. We can now estimate that 11% of businesses were victim to at least one cybercrime. That's cost each of them around £15,000 in the past year. We must never lose sight of the fact that behind each of these online statistics is a real-world victim. Each is a grandparent defrauded, their savings gone. Each is a small business held to ransom and jobs lost. Each is public money stolen and the taxpayer shortchanged. But the cyber threat does not just come from criminals. The ongoing war in Ukraine is a constant reminder of the threat we face from hostile actors. Russia has been trying to invade Ukraine's cyberspace as much as its physical space, threatening critical information, critical services, and critical infrastructure. The threat of further cyber fallout from conflict is very real to the United Kingdom and to all our allies. And at home, we're seeing this overlap of state threats, terrorism, and organised crime brought together online and off. Against this troubling background, our mission is clear. We must crack down on cybercrime. We must protect the United Kingdom from the most capable cyber adversaries, states, criminals, and terrorists. All are trying to hurt us, and all have made the online world work for them, delivering offline political gain and criminal profit. Now, that is no small brief, and it's not one that any department, certainly not one minister, can achieve alone. And that's why this event is so important to me. This is why I'm so grateful for Lindy for inviting me, and so grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. Because what we can achieve together is an all-round ecosystem of cybersecurity built on the UK's world-class foundations of education, expertise, technology, and capability. The task of cybersecurity falls to government, of course, but also to individuals, to law enforcement, and to you, business. Now, today, I'd like to reflect on how far we've come and where we need to go. Above all, I want to stress the core message exemplified by those extraordinary events of 25 years ago, that only by working together can we collectively be safe. And I'd like to briefly outline my priorities in cyber policy before affirming areas in which the government and industry partnerships must go further if we are all going to succeed. The government has already made phenomenal progress in building resilience and countering the threat from our adversaries. And the latest iteration of the National Cyber Strategy set out the UK's role as a responsible and democratic cyber power and laid down the framework on which the UK's security and prosperity can depend. It's the bedrock of everything we do to keep the UK cyber safe. It's also important our laws, the software of our society, are updated. That's why we've recently published a consultation on improving the Computer Misuse Act, which is an important part of deterring those who would commit crime and equipping law enforcement to carry out their duties. That consultation is for you to contribute to, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. We're proposing to include powers to take control of domains and IP addresses used by criminals and enable action against individuals in possession of or using data obtained through the criminal actions of others. But I say again, your thoughts matter, and I'm looking forward to your input. And we're building the National Cyber Crime Unit to take on serious cyber criminals. In its operational resources, its operational resources must deliver arrests and disruption and build on the NCA's enhanced intelligence picture to target criminals where they are most vulnerable. We recently helped to dismantle Genesis Market, one of the biggest online marketplaces, selling stolen logins and passwords to criminals across the world. We've built a network of regional cyber crime units, ensuring that police units have access to specialists and capabilities. And I must also mention the ransomware attacks, where the National Cybersecurity Centre assesses us to be in the top tier, the National Cybersecurity Centre assesses to be in the top tier of online threats to the United Kingdom. Ransomware criminals cause harm and hurt. They cost more than cash. Hospitals and their patients in the middle of the pandemic were targeted, putting people and lives at risk. Now, this is a global problem, and we're working with global partners. With the US and others, the UK is a leading member of the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative. And together, we are going after these criminals. Recently, we sanctioned 7 Russian cyber criminals who were behind some of the most damaging ransomware attacks in the United Kingdom in recent years. And with those priorities in mind, let me now turn to your role in the cyber community. Against this array of challenges, collaboration between government, law enforcement, and industry is key. And I'd like to propose 3 areas where we must go further and faster together. First, prevention. Now, prevention is always better than a cure. Sometimes cyber attacks are sophisticated, but the vast majority are in fact simple. They can be easily prevented with a few simple steps. And our aim is to make the UK the safest place to be online. And that starts with all of us working to ensure that everyone understands how to protect themselves. The National Cybersecurity Centre's CyberAware campaign and the work of the City of London Police leading this work is, I hope, of use to you all in providing advice that is simple and consistent and based on our collective latest understanding of the threat picture. Now, this room is filled with experts, so please be active in shaping the guidance so that your staff and customers can avoid becoming victims in the first place. Second, our most capable adversaries will only get better. Malign states and crime gangs will look for chances in an open internet. We've got to do the same to protect ourselves. 5 years ago, WannaCry wreaked havoc in the NHS, leading to cancelled appointments and postponed operations on a huge scale. North Korea's cyber weapon was heralded in a new business model for criminals around the world. Today, ransomware is a chronic threat and is sold as a service to groups without cyber skills. The barriers to entry have come down. This is a democratization of crime, just as much as any other. The question that we should all be asking is what next? Breaking the future cyber criminal business model and understanding tomorrow's state action in cyberspace is key to pushing for more responsible democratic behavior. The enemy will evolve, and so must we. Third, new technology will change the world we think we know. Now, dawn has just broken on the age of artificial intelligence, and we've only just begun to wake up to the opportunities that will be unlocked and can only guess at the ways in which they'll transform our world. Now, this speech wasn't written by ChatGPT, as you can probably tell. You're not supposed to laugh at that. But very soon, we're going to see large language models such as OpenAI's ChatGPT, which are already able to ace the bar exam and indeed write better speeches than this, and suggest new avenues for drug discovery. They're not thinking yet. They're not thinking yet. It's more pattern recognition and repetition. It's more pattern recognition and repetition than real thought. But the game is changing already. The goal that many are working towards, artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is looking more open and more possible. It's difficult to overstate what this would mean to all of us. Superintelligent computers that learn and develop autonomously would transform our society and our world, and more than almost any other advancement in human history. Even in these early stages, AI can enhance our security, but it can also threaten it. Our AI capabilities will be at the heart of our mission to protect the United Kingdom. The example is already clear. In Ukraine, AI is being used to identify malicious Russian behavior. By analyzing patterns of activity at huge scale, they're not just finding needles in the haystack, but working out what the haystack itself is saying. At home and across our homes in the United Kingdom, AI could protect children from predators, unlocking advanced tools and techniques to identify potential grooming behavior at scale and uncover rings of offenders right across the net. However, in our line of work, opportunity often comes hand in hand with risk, and AI is no different. A decade later, we already know, because we've seen it, the cost of the advancement of technology and the challenge that it has brought in biological space. And we know, that because we've seen it, the risks that a pathogen can cause to our world. We need to make sure that we do not see the same risk from AI. And it's hard to see, it's not hard to see future AGI coding weapons. Even now, there are threats we must guard against. Cyber attacks work when they find vulnerabilities. AI will cut the cost and complication of cyber attacks by automating the hunt for the chinks in our armor. Already, AI can confuse and copy, spreading lies and committing fraud. Natural language models can mimic credible news sources, pushing disingenuous narratives at huge scale. And AI image and video generation will get better, so-called deep fakes, which make the danger to our democracy even greater. Given the stakes, we can all understand the calls to stop AI development altogether. But the genie won't go back in the bottle, any more than we can write laws against maths. As Oppenheimer once said, technology happens because it is possible. Putin has a long-standing strategic interest in AI and has commented that whoever becomes leader in this sphere will rule the world. And China, with its vast data sets and fierce determination, is a strong rival. But AI also threatens authoritarian control. Other than the United States, the UK is one of the only a handful of liberal democratic countries that can credibly lead the world in AI development. We can stay ahead, but it will demand investment and cooperation, and not just by government. Only by working together can we keep Britain in the front rank of AI powers and protect ourselves and our businesses. As for the safety of the technology itself, it's essential that by the time we reach the development of AGI, we are confident that it can be safely controlled and aligned to our values and interests. Solving this issue of alignment is where our efforts must lie, not in some King Canute-like attempt to stop the inevitable, but in a national mission to ensure that as superintelligent computers arrive, they make the world safer and more secure. Before I finish, let me say again what an enormous pleasure it is to join you for this outstanding event. Last night at dinner, I wasn't with you in the Titanic Hall, but instead at Hillsborough Castle, hearing those who had negotiated the complexity of the Good Friday Agreement. I heard about the uncertainty, the recriminations, and the fear. But I also heard about the hope and the individual efforts by millions across Northern Ireland, and indeed across the islands of Ireland and Great Britain, that changed our lives for the better. This morning, I've heard from others who are taking on a different challenge with its own complexity and uncertainty, and indeed its own risk. But I've also heard the hope for a better future for us all. As we can cooperate to contain and confront the challenges, I'm grateful to you all for everything you have done and continue to do in the name of keeping people safe online. This is a ferociously difficult task, but I am constantly inspired and reassured by your talent, expertise, and dedication. I'm very grateful for everything you do, and I look forward to us working together to make sure that this revolution, the next revolution, serves us all and keeps us all safe. Thank you.
Now, please welcome the next panel discussion, 3 R's of cybersecurity, Russia, ransomware, and resilience.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Plenary 3, the 3 R's of cybersecurity, Russia, ransomware, and resilience. I'm delighted to introduce my panel. So my name's Marsha Coelho-Wright, and I'm the Deputy Director for CNI at NCSC. I have Jenny Stilley here from the US, where she's the Director of CISA, Bella Powell, the UK Government's Cyber Director in the Cabinet Office, Sami Khoury, the head of the Canadian Cyber Centre, and Victor Zora, Deputy Chairman at the State Service of Special Communications and Information Protection of Ukraine. And I think I speak on behalf of NCSC, but also Cyber UK, when I thank Victor for making the journey to be here today. I know it hasn't been an easy one. And I'd like to take the opportunity for us all to show our appreciation for the incredible work that you and your team have done in protecting Ukraine. You really are an inspiration to us all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. for this warm welcome, and I'm extremely grateful for having an opportunity to speak, for being invited to Belfast for the very first time and to Cyber UK. In my past, I was co-organizer of the largest Ukrainian cybersecurity conference, and my dream is to have the largest conference in cybersecurity in Ukraine ever after our victory, and I know the name. We will name it CYBERUK Rain.
Thank you, and I think we'd all be delighted to attend. So this panel is going to look at how we build resilience to chronic and future threats like Russia and ransomware in an ever-changing global landscape. And I have a truly global panel here to help us address that. So I'm really excited to hear all of their thoughts. So I'm going to kick off with some questions. I want us to take a look into the future. So in 2033, will we look back and feel like we did everything that we could to bolster the resilience of our institutions, infrastructure, and information? Or will we have regrets? What should we be doing now? What radical solutions are we missing? And how do we incentivize greater resilience? And Jen, I'm going to turn to you first.
Oh, fantastic. It's great to be here with everybody, and great to be here with Victor. You know, I think it is the right question. When you think about projecting ourselves into the future, let's see here if we can do that a little bit better. It reminds me, I was at Oxford for my graduate degree, and one of my classmates is a philosopher named Roman Krasnarek, and he wrote this book about how to be a good ancestor, which posits that we can't think about quarterly earnings or think about electoral cycles, but actually need to project ourselves out hundreds of years and sort of think about the world that we're leaving to our great-great-great-grandchildren. Now, given the pace of technology, probably 10 years is okay to think about projecting ourselves into that future. I think when you think back about the history of technology, and you could argue that the internet was birthed 40 years ago, January 1st, 1983, when TCP/IP was implemented. And the history of technology in many ways is the history of innovation, but it is also the history of insecurity. So the internet was never made to be safe. Software was never made to be safe. Social media was not made to be safe. And now we're hurtling into the world of AI, which, as the minister said, offers amazing opportunities, but I think fundamental danger. And so where do we want to be in 10 years? I think we want to be in a space where we can take advantage of the amazing technology, but to do it in a way that leverages the lessons learned of 4 decades of insecure and unsafe technology. So if there's one thing that I think we really need to focus on over the next decade, it's grounded in the product that we put out along with 9 partners, to include, of course, the NCSC, on principles and approaches for technology that is secure by design and secure by default. Mm-hmm. So we now have technology where the incentives were all about speed and speed to market and cost and features, and safety was bolted on the back end, which is why we have a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity industry, and we've normalized that. We've normalized patches and the burden placed on consumers and small businesses and entities that do not understand the threat and do not know how to keep themselves safe. And so I think realigning incentives to ensure that we are building security into our technology, designing it in first purposes, testing it, developing it specifically so that we drive down the number of vulnerabilities and build in multi-factor encryption. We're building with memory safe code. We're building password complexity, and we're ensuring all of this is opt out, not opt in. And realizing that there is some friction that comes with that. But I think if we are not focused on changing the paradigm, quite frankly, of the past 40 years, I think we're going to find ourselves in a pretty dangerous space in the near term.
Wonderful, thank you. And I really do love the concept of addressing this challenge by thinking about being a good ancestor. It's a wonderful way to think about it. Sammy, I'm keen to have your thoughts.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to be here at CYBERUK. It's a great, Belfast is a beautiful city and a great conference. I think achieving resilience in 2033 is not a utopic dream, and I only have to look to my right with Victor and Ukraine and the people of the Ukraine and their cyber resilience effort. And how did you achieve that? I mean, obviously it starts with the people in the Ukraine, but international collaboration, partnerships with the private sector, with international government, like-minded government. I think that's a good example of how do we achieve resilience. What we need to do from here on is to industrialize that model of resilience across the world. So starting with information sharing, to me that's super important. A better product or more secure product, and starting with what Jen talked about, the secure by design, secure by default. We're happy to have our name added to the publication to say that it's a global call to action to corporations to make products more secure by default. Would love to see information protected with good encryption. Quantum would be around. Quantum-resistant algorithm will be the norm, hopefully in 2033, to protect all of our information, and more importantly, our crown jewels being our identities. And lastly, an investment, a persistent investment in talent development and education. So by 2033, cybersecurity becomes a norm in schools. Everybody is raised with that mindset around cybersecurity. And we need to incentivize communities and society to go in that direction, incentivize corporations to invest in security, incentivize through maybe procurement, and recognize that assurance is a good thing to have in a product. So I look forward to that journey, and hopefully in 10 years, a panel will be here reflecting back on the last 10 years and say, we have moved the yardstick forward on some of these concepts.
Brilliant. And the information sharing and international collaboration, I think, is a really, really important theme and something that I'm keen to come back to later. Bella.
Thanks, Marcia. So I'm going to take this from a UK government resilience perspective, because that's the thing that I worry about on a regular basis. So from our perspective, we already have a strategy in place that was launched in January of last year that gives us some really clear targets for how we need to improve our cyber resilience within UK governments. And that's really helpful because it sets us punchy targets, but it also gives us a really clear path to delivery on that. So actually, for us, the response to that question is to really double down on that strategy and focus on delivery over the next 10 years, not get distracted, and make sure that we are delivering on those targets. And that's why it's also been really fantastic to be able to launch GovAssure at CyberUK this week. GovAssure is our new cybersecurity assurance scheme for government. It does what it says on the tin, it's very smart. And GovAssure is going to give us a really, really fantastic opportunity to better measure resilience across UK government, so cybersecurity resilience across UK government, but also to really measure how we're improving and to set really clear targets at organisational level and at individual system level for how we can improve those things. So that's a really fantastic achievement for us and a great step forward in delivery of the strategy. But more broadly, across government and then also across the cybersecurity profession, I do still think that we're missing quite a major opportunity for competitive advantage, particularly when we're talking about the threats that have been discussed earlier. So, dealing with those kinds of threats, they're incredibly rapidly evolving. They're going to need us to be innovative. They're going to need us to be adaptable. They're going to need diversity of thoughts. And yet, despite the fantastic progress that we've made within this profession, we are still chronically lacking in diversity. And I think that's going to cause us major challenges unless we really kind of face up to that. And I'd like to be able to look back in 2033 and say that we really tackled that challenge head on, and we've really done as much as we possibly can. I think it's quite interesting that a lot of the conversations that we've had over the past couple of days have focused on generative AI and reducing the amount of bias that we might see in the outputs of that, but we don't talk as much about reducing the inherent bias that we have in our human machinery, which comes from a lack of diversity in the people that are delivering on those technologies. So for me, that's an area where I think we can build fantastic competitive advantage if we tackle that challenge. And I'd really love us to look back in 2033 and say that we've fixed that problem, we've done it really well.
And I think diversity is a really key point, and actually one of the things that I was quite excited about is the diversity of this panel here, and that's what we want our teams to look like. Victor, I'm keen to hear your thoughts, and in particular, if you think your answer has changed given your experience over the last year or so.
Thank you, Marcia. And again, it's my great privilege to thank to the United Kingdom for standing with Ukraine and for your ongoing support of our country and in cyber resistance as well. We highly appreciate our cooperation. And it's the key factor of our cyber resilience. It's international support, it's information exchange, it's cooperation, sharing of threat intel, and many aspects that contribute to Ukrainian cyber resilience. But the crucial thing that we are missing today, to my opinion, is the total restriction of the aggressor's ability to attack others. We need to find a way bringing them to responsibility, to restrict their access to knowledge, to new technologies, to new software, and to new designs. State-sponsored cyber terrorism is a crucial threat for all global democracies. And according to statistics from our computer emergency response team, CERT-UA, we're tracking up to 85 actor groups, and 90% of them are associated with the Russian Federation. And most of these groups are controlled by special services or funded by Russian government. So we have a mechanism of designated the country to be a sponsor of cyber terrorism. In a way, it happened after the attribution of the hack of YSAT network. That was a statement, joint statement by 27 countries, but there's no mechanism of bringing them to accountability. And perhaps we should find this mechanism of not only economic sanctions, we should find effective way of restricting their accesses to knowledge, to technologies, to licensed software, and of course put measures to control this distributing of unlicensed software. We clearly understand that Russia's intention is to provide a kinetic effect with the use of cyber weapon, and the person that's goal. And of course, one way of decreasing this ability is criminal prosecution and punishment for this. So that should be, we have a cyber tribunal, a permanent one, which will prosecute such cyber crimes, cyber war crimes. So I hope that in 10 years we will be able to give answers to this.
Wonderful, thank you. And again, I think international collaboration and working together has been a key theme. We know we can't tackle these challenges alone, and something that you'll often hear Lindy and other people in the NCSC saying is cybersecurity is a team sport. And, you know, we need everyone, the whole of society, to lean in to help tackle this. And I was really pleased to hear Sammy mention schools. We really do need kind of to bring up the next generation of people where cybersecurity is like basic hygiene, you know, the basic hygiene of cybersecurity, and that is embedded. So I'm going to ask my panel who we should be working with out there, and how we should be working with those partners. And Bella, I'm going to turn to you first.
Thanks, Marcia. So I think we've covered quite a bit of this in the conversation already. I think international partnerships are absolutely critical, and that's why events like this, thank you NCSC, are so fantastic to have the opportunity to meet so many brilliant people from different countries who are dealing with what feels like actually either similar or exactly the same problem, just in a slightly different context. And it's particularly fantastic to hear from this panel today, who have a really broad range of expertise, but are also clearly dealing with these challenges on a daily basis. So I think international partnerships are an obvious port of call, particularly for government, in terms of not reinventing the wheel and kind of learning from others. But as someone who spent the majority of their career working in the private sector, I should probably also recognise the importance of engagement with industry and academia. I do think that it is incredibly important that we work hand in glove with our colleagues in industry to deliver on national cybersecurity priorities, but also government ones. We're really lucky in the UK in that we have the National Cyber Advisory Board and the Government Cyber Advisory Board, both of which are made up of leading industry people and people from academia. And both of those are really helping us to shape how we deliver the national cyber strategy and the government cyber strategy. And the Government Cyber Advisory Board, so the one that I work really closely with, has also been doing a fantastic job of really challenging us. So really making us think about how we're delivering on the government cyber strategy, whether or not we're doing the right thing, whether we're sort of taking the same avenues that government always takes, or whether we can do things differently, which has been really incredibly powerful. I think we should also recognise that if we look at the sort of the organisations that have the opportunity to change the power equation in cybersecurity, it is industry, it is the kind of the leaders of industry and the sort of the innovators in industry that have that opportunity. I think it's really important, therefore, to really focus on the conversation. So Jen mentioned earlier, the sort of the criticality of building security into design and making sure that industry organisations are really taking accountability and responsibility for kind of taking that work forward. I think that's also a really good example where in the UK we can learn so much from the work that our colleagues in the US are already doing to promote that message and to focus on what security by design actually means in practice, and also a great kind of opportunity for us to collaborate more closely with industry.
Wonderful, thank you. Sammy, I'm keen to have your views.
Thank you. Our mantra at the Cyber Centre in Canada is cybersecurity through collaboration. And we recognize that we cannot do it alone. And we need everybody's help in order to raise the resilience across society. And to make a difference, it has to be through strong, sustained, and trusted partnerships. And trust builds over time. So it's not in a time of crisis that joking, I say, we'll exchange business cards. So we need to start as soon as possible. So that might be my call to action later on. But the partnership is with all facets of society. It's with industry. Absolutely, we need industry's help. And everyone here contributes to that. It's with education, the universities, the schools. It's with citizenry also, because it's a trusted partnerships also with citizenry to instill in them the sense of cybersecurity. And lastly, it's a partnership within government. So across the Canadian government, we need to partner with all of our other departments so that we can achieve that cyber resilience that we want for society. And then beyond Canada, it's the international aspects, everybody on stage here and everybody else that we had the pleasure of meeting at Day Zero on Tuesday. So building partnerships is super important. It's all about collaboration. It's all about partnerships. And it's also about the exchange of ideas, the exchange of best practices. We don't have time to reinvent the wheel. So I would look to every opportunity to, copy somebody else's good work and say, it's the best sign of flattery, I think, to plagiarism in that case. Yeah. But in order to move society forward on the cybersecurity front.
Wonderful. And Victor, I'm keen to have your view. You've been inundated, I think, with offers of help and support over the last year.
Well, thank you. I'm confident that cybersecurity specialists and private sector contributed a lot to cyber resilience. And the reason why we continue being resilient in this ongoing cyber aggression is due to global efforts and domestic help, of course, from our community and from our volunteers. But perhaps it is time to integrate Ukraine's experience, what we observe each day, countering this extreme cyber aggression to the global policy making. Because state-sponsored cyber terrorism should be addressed on the international, on the global level. And politicians should consider this factor every time they discuss the trends, they discuss decisions which are defining our future for the next years. And since cyber component is one of the main components of the ongoing war, hybrid war in Ukraine, of course it can be developed and its value will eventually grow. during our transition to digital economy, the role of cybersecurity will evolve. And of course, we should need this, to raise this kind of awareness to policy makers to include cybersecurity to their horizon.
Brilliant, thank you. Jen?
Yeah, so CISA is a startup agency. We were created a little over 4 years ago to be America's cyber defense agency, and our mission is to reduce risk to the critical infrastructure that Americans rely on every hour of every day. We don't own very much of those networks or systems or infrastructure. It's largely owned by the private sector. And so everything we do as a voluntary agency is about building trusted partnerships. As Sammy was saying, it's hard to build trust, and it's very easy to lose. And you know, having been in this business for more than 3 decades, we've been talking about public-private partnerships forever, almost to the point where it became sort of hackneyed as a term. And I think just recently, over the past couple years, and a lot of it is coming out of what we're seeing in Ukraine, is the idea of collaboration, which I think is very different from partnership, which I see as more episodic, or go to visit the government agency and get the briefing. And I think this idea of operational collaboration and persistent operational collaboration, where governments and industry are working together in real time with a default to share, recognizing that in our highly digitized, highly connected world, a threat to one is a threat to many. Co-equal partnerships among government and industry with a reciprocal expectation of value added, transparency, responsiveness, and where industry doesn't have to worry about punitive sanction from sharing information that we know is good to protect the ecosystem. And then, you know, focus on being able to scale and share platforms and have data-driven analysis. This is very different than when we just talk about the episodic public-private partnerships. And so we've been working hard to build this through something called our Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, or JCDC. I was actually hoping to call it the Advanced Cyber Defense Collaborative, and then the lawyers would not let me. But what that does is it gives us a platform to bring together the federal cyber ecosystem, not just CISA, but really CISA, NSA, FBI, Cybercom, and the rest of our agencies that have a stake in cyber, with our international partners, with our industry partners that have incredible visibility by virtue of where they are placed around the globe, with our academic partners, with research partners, so that we can all contribute to this tapestry of visibility that allows us to understand the threat and drive down risk, not just to our country, but really to the globe, just given the connectivity that we have. And so incredibly important as we think about continuing to push the envelope on operational collaboration. There also needs to be a little bit of a default to trust, and that's why transparency is so important, because really transparency builds that trust. The one other point that I'd make, Marcia, is one set of partners that we don't often talk about, but I think are increasingly important in this space, are CEOs and boards. And that's because CEOs and boards have to own cyber risk. We can no longer blame the CISOs or blame the IT people for breaches and intrusions on networks. CEOs and boards have to own cyber risk as a matter of good governance, frankly, as a matter of corporate cyber responsibility, or CCR, which is also the name of a great band. So at the end of the day, we really need to be able to hold leaders accountable for how we all manage risk, as much as we need to hold ourselves accountable, as the minister was saying, for ensuring safe practices online, good cyber hygiene, and working together with partners to keep the global ecosystem safe and secure.
Wonderful. I love the concept of kind of moving towards operational collaboration. I think that's a really nice thing to aim for in the way that we work. We work together, especially with industry, and holding leaders accountable comes back to that point about making cybersecurity everyone's role, making it a default that everyone has a role in cybersecurity, and that whole of society approach that we try to have. So I'm going to move on to my, my final question, and this is a big one, so I'm going to ask my panel. We've got a wonderful audience here, and that kind of represents many of the people who you've all called out as who we need to be working with. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to turn to my panel and ask, what's your call to action for the audience that we have here at Cyber UK? And Jen, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, so with Victor here, I'm very mindful of the lessons that we're learning from Ukraine, and you've been a terrific partner. And, you know, we talk about resilience, right? Cyber resilience, operational resilience, but I think one of the key lessons learned for me, and something that we all need to take away, is really societal resilience. Mm-hmm. You know, the keep calm and carry on that we think about when we think about the United Kingdom and World War II. And, you know, in this world we live in, where we're all walking around with these supercomputers that have become weapons of mass distraction, we get, resilience becomes something that is no longer necessarily core to who we are and what we do. And so ensuring that we are building resilience into how we deal with the disruptions that will inevitably plague our society, I think is incredibly important. So, you know, the call to action is to think about that in how we build technology, in how we operate technology, and how we think about keeping ourselves, our kids, our communities safe and secure in an increasingly complex and dynamic cyber threat landscape.
I think personal resilience is really important, and I always like to think about resilience holistically. I think sometimes you can think about resilience as purely just being preventing something from happening, but it's also, you know, responding and recovering. That's a really, really important part of resilience, and I think personal resilience really kind of comes into that holistic view of resilience. Victor?
Well, Jen just emphasized the importance of cooperation, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here with great co-panelists, our greatest partners from the United States, from the United Kingdom and Canada. So that's what we do daily, cooperating with our partner agencies. But I would like to emphasize the importance of education. So that should be our call to action in order to pursue a global goal of building a secure cyberspace for global democracies, which allow us to effectively counter the challenges in the near time. And education should start perhaps from basic cyber hygiene rules for global audiences and evolve to policy decision. And that means that decision makers should be aware of the importance of cybersecurity.
Brilliant, thank you. Bella?
Thanks, Marsha. So I think, you know, we should reflect on the fact that we've got a lot of challenges coming our way, and there's a few that we know about. So there's generative AI, there's quantum, there's the skills shortage, there's a bunch of other things. But there'll be a lot of challenges that we don't know are coming. And I think that's why, kind of going back to my previous point, it's so important for us to kind of think about diversity in our profession, and also think about how we can build as inclusive a profession as possible. But I really believe in this community. I think it's a fabulous community. It delivers amazing things on a daily basis. And so I've got a bit of a challenge rather than a call to action. So my challenge for this fabulous community is try to think about building an inclusive profession and worry about that as much or more as you worry about generative AI over the next year. And at the next Cyber UK, let's see how much of a change we can deliver in that. And I bet it's going to be pretty fabulous.
Wonderful, what a great challenge. Sammy?
Yeah, thank you. We have a strategic advantage over Russia in the sense that we are all partners here, we're all collaborators, we exchange all sorts of things, intelligence, information, and I think it's important not to squander that, but we build on this through collaboration, and collaboration, we've talked about it across all aspects of society. We know a lot, so let's share that knowledge to build a more resilient society. I would also like to maybe go back to the 3 R's, but add a nostalgic twist to it. So the 3 R's being the original 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So I would say, please reduce the threat surface of your businesses. please reuse all the good advice that comes out of these agencies like ours and recycle the information that you have already so that we can share it more broadly and make society more resilient. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been brilliant. We've got lots of challenges coming in the future. And I'm a scientifically proven optimist, but this conversation has made me feel even more optimistic than my default that, you know, by working together, kind of internationally, like my panel, and with all of the people who are represented here at CyberUK, we're going to be able to tackle those challenges, and that fills me with kind of hope and excitement, and that's a nice way, I think, to close out the panel. So thank you so much to my wonderful panel, and maybe we can reconvene at Cyber Ukraine.
Yes.
Please now welcome to the stage Head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service, Jane Brady.
Good morning, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to Belfast and to Northern Ireland, to this flagship international gathering, and the first time the CyberUK conference is hosted in Northern Ireland. And I share Lindy Cameron's pride in hosting this conference in Northern Ireland. And I know that Lindy has been promoting all that is good about Northern Ireland, but I hope you'll oblige me to share some of our Northern Ireland statistics in tech. You're probably well aware that Northern Ireland is the #1 destination for US FDI investment in cyber. Belfast is Europe's leading FDI investment destination for new software development. And Belfast is also ranked the best place in the UK to work as a software developer. And indeed, Queen's University, my alma mater, is the #1 university in terms of entrepreneurial impact in the UK. And whilst those are very important technology stats, there are also other stats which place Northern Ireland in a very positive light. We are the happiest region in the UK. And we also are the safest. We have the lowest crime rate in these islands. But I really hope that you've felt other key characteristics of Northern Ireland as you've been here over the last few days. I hope you've found us welcoming. I hope you've enjoyed our hospitality, our fabulous food, our scenery, our music, our cultural environment, and of course the wonderful weather. Hosting this conference here is very personally important for me. I am the head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service, and we employ 23,000 people across Northern Ireland. But my background is in business and technology, and I am a network engineer, electrical electronic engineer from Queen's University, spending 15 of my years in networking and the next 7 in venture capital. I was also part of the UK Innovation Expert Group in 2021, defining the UK's innovation strategy. And we know how important cyber is as a key element of that strategy. Indeed, in the Department for Economy's strategy in 10X, it is a key area of focus in terms of driving our competitive advantage for Northern Ireland. And that's not just about providing economic growth, which is also, of course, important, but to make sure that we are resilient and sustainable and solving the global threat problems to keep our world and our people safe. And this has been a truly momentous week for Northern Ireland. We are celebrating 25 years since the signing of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and celebrating the peace and prosperity that has brought. And we have welcomed so many international visitors. Over the last 10 days, we have had within Northern Ireland 6 Northern Ireland Secretary of States present and past, 5 Prime Ministers present and past, 5 presidents, including 2 US presidents, 2 Irish presidents, and 1 EU president, and 3 Taoiseachs for the Irish government. But there is one particular individual who I am personally have been delighted to welcome, and that is our one and only US Economic Envoy for Northern Ireland, Joe Kennedy III. I've had the pleasure of engaging with Joe over the past number of months, and over the past 10 days, we have put him through an endurance test of speeches, engagements, and meetings. And I'm delighted to say he has passed with flying colours. I am hugely impressed by his strategic focus, his insights, and his stamina. And I'm really looking forward to working with him in the weeks and months ahead. Can I ask you to give a very warm welcome to Joe Kennedy?
Can't top that, folks. Jane, my goodness, thank you for the incredibly kind introduction. I am going to clip that and send it to every one of those presidents, prime ministers, secretaries of states, vice presidents, and ambassadors that you just mentioned. Thank you. It has been an endurance test, but that's because there's an awful lot to see, an awful lot to do, an awful lot of activity. You, Jane, and your team have done an incredible job pulling together. And folks, I am so honored and delighted to be with all of you this morning. I gotta say, this isn't wholly something that I would have guessed if I rolled my career back about 20 or so years. I actually have an engineering degree from Stanford University. The worst class I ever took was a computer science class. I still, no lie, to this day, have nightmares about sitting in our little computer lab in my dorm at 5 in the morning, 3 empty Red Bulls, fingers shaking because I was so over-caffeinated, and trying to get the damn program to compile, and it just wouldn't work. So if you had told me then that some 20 years hence, I would be in front of a cybersecurity conference in Belfast, Northern Ireland, giving a speech, I would have told you you were pretty nuts, I guess is the nice word to say. But nevertheless, I am here, and I am incredibly excited to be here. And I hope all of you have had as warm a welcome here as I have. I know there's a number of members from the United States government that are here today. We are thrilled to have you and thrilled to be with you, including our acting National Cyber Director, Kemba Walden, I know that you heard from yesterday. But as we have come over in numbers to these shores, the reception we have gotten has been extraordinary. Last Wednesday, I was here when President Biden addressed local entrepreneurs and emerging leaders at Ulster University. In that gleaming new university building, the president focused on Northern Ireland's biggest asset, its people. He described their energy, their dynamism, as well as the unique spark and spirit of a new generation. Men and women whose dedication was driving them to fulfill new and noble aspirations. Graduates whose foresight they have to spot a new opportunity to spark their own businesses. Entrepreneurs and innovators that are connecting with others around the world to expand Northern Ireland's global footprint. And folks, after spending the last 10 days or so running around the region, I can say with confidence that if anything, and with all due respect, President Biden undersold this place. I was with some production managers who were doing cutting-edge work in places like Seagate in Derry and Londonderry, who were literally putting lasers on devices the size of an atom. I have no idea how they did it, but as you all probably know, 1/3 of all computers have a Seagate part in them, and nearly half of those come from their factory in Derry. We saw innovators in a rejuvenated bathhouse that is now an incubator, and a hockey arena that is also a STEM lab, providing space for kids to build new skills and great ideas. And last Saturday, when Jane said she would give me the day off, which was kind of a lie, turns out, we witnessed the incredible beauty of this place. Dramatic coastlines, green landscapes, world-leading visitor attractions. The only disappointment was a few less dragons than I was hoping for. But folks, as you know, this is a very special place. A warm and hardworking populace dedicated to its next chapter. One that is big and bright and inclusive and expansive. As Jane indicated, we just came from the end of a 3-day conference at Queen's University, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. That momentous accord provided an invaluable foundation for political stability. It also provided a backdrop for economic growth and foreign investment. Images that once dominated television screens here have given way to ribbon cuttings. Fear and uncertainty that came from decades of violence has been replaced with optimism. Northern Ireland has already made some very difficult progress. For any of us, the past is not a faraway place. And through determination and dedication, people here are creating something new. Cybersecurity is a fantastic case in point. Yesterday morning, I met with representatives from the Northern Ireland Cybersecurity Center. The group exists to support individuals working among the highest concentration of cybersecurity practitioners in all of Europe. The dramatic growth of the sector here is no accident. This city is now Europe's leading foreign direct investment location for new software development. It was recently voted by Tech Nation as the best place in the UK to work as a software engineer and is recognized as one of the world's top 15 digital economies of the future. And a short swim across the river, if you want to try it, is the Center for Secure Information Technologies. It's a renowned cyber hub, and it too is making a huge global impact. So it's not hard to see why Northern Ireland is a safe and secure partner in the cyber industry. Its technologically advanced workforce and its close ties to the US market make it a perfect region for collaboration. And I am delighted, truly, to have spent a lot of time over the past 10 days with Jane and her entire team. Northern Ireland is an even stronger place because of her personal experience and deep commitment to the sector. The importance of cybersecurity resonates, though, well beyond the United States and our unique interests in Northern Ireland. Last week in Belfast, President Biden reminded us the speed with which the world is changing and how this presents enormous opportunities as well as significant challenges. As we know, you all more than most, we're living through an incredible confluence of technological revolutions that are reshaping how we communicate, how we interact, how we work. Virtually every aspect of our lives is affected. We need to harness emerging technologies like artificial intelligence to solve problems that confront our global community, to heal our planet, feed our citizens, strengthen our democratic governments, all while protecting the integrity of our systems, identifying and limiting the impact of bad actors, and understanding how new innovations might exploit older systems. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to working with allies and partners, just like all of you, to do just that, to make AI and other emerging technologies to serve our people and our interests. We have faith in the role of technology to help us strive towards our highest human ambitions. We stand united in our commitment to advance human rights online and to promote our core democratic values like transparency, liberty, and equality. And we'll continue to encourage responsible state behavior in cyberspace and advance policies that protect the integrity and security of the infrastructure of the internet. I want to say that Belfast is already leading the way. But if that is the limit of this sector's ambition, then we will have missed an extraordinary opportunity, because cybersecurity investment here is already a success story. And it can also be a mechanism to extend Northern Ireland's prosperity to more corners of this region, to engage sectors of a community where the upper echelons of cyberspace might appear as far away as outer space, to ensure that the benefits that come with advanced education, earning capacity, stability, and a way of life, that its impact will be felt by far more people. I admit that we face many of those similar challenges in the United States. As the tech sector exploded over the first few years of the new millennium, its benefits did not always extend to communities that needed it most. That expansion is no easy task, but it is one that Northern Ireland is made for. If you'll make allowances for an extremely poor Latin, but Belfast's motto is pro tanto quid recibiamus. Roughly translated, if I got that partially right, it means, what can we give back in return for so much? Now, we have an opportunity to build for the next. I want to thank every one of you and every delegate here this morning who is giving back, whether it be by protecting our democratic values, sustaining our shared activity, our shared security, building an inclusive infrastructure and economic growth. I know that the insights and best practices that you all acquire from this conference and you share among yourselves will be applied to the betterment of our lives, our communities, all of our countries. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. Good luck and God bless. Thank you. Appreciate it.